good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. You're very welcome to the Startup Women's Industry Roundtable for Women in Hospitality and Tourism. I'm Isabel Nolan, Director of Programs at Startup Canada. To begin, I'd like to acknowledge the land on which I'm on today is located on the unceded and traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh Nations, also known as Vancouver. And as we're a national organisation, I'd also like to acknowledge with respect the diverse histories and cultures of all Indigenous peoples. And I encourage you to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional territory you're residing on today. So Startup Canada, if you're not familiar with us, it's the gateway to Canada's entrepreneurial ecosystem. We're here to connect entrepreneurs with the support, community, and tools that they need to build a successful business in Canada. And Startup Women is an annual program offering support to early stage women identifying entrepreneurs across Canada through topic-focused webinars, industry roundtables like today's, and meetings with startup women leaders. And these monthly roundtables are really trying to provide attendees with deeper understandings of trends and best practices in their sector. And hopefully today you'll leave with some actionable takeaways and resources that you can implement into your business. So we've got a short message from our co-presenting partner, Scotiabank Women Initiative, and I will press play on that now.
The Scotiabank Women Initiative is dedicated to your success on your terms.
I'm shaping our industry's vision for the future.
I can expand my business without borrowing from my family.
I know I can face anything, thanks to my network.
I'm ready for my next chapter.
I'm inspiring future leaders.
I'm making sure my family's future is secure.
Define your success, and we'll help you achieve it. With unbiased access to capital and tailored solutions, bespoke specialized education, and holistic advisory services and mentorship. Join our community of women today, the Scotiabank Women Initiative.
And also a quick shout out and thank you to our other co-presenting partner, UPS, our ecosystem partners, Mastercard, WEOC, and Constant Contact, and our plethora of community partners, and we'll add a full list into the Zoom chat shortly. So just to give you an idea of how today's session will go. We have a little schedule here for you. So in a few moments, I'm actually going to hand it over to you, the attendees, to introduce yourselves to us. And you can do this either by coming on camera and introducing yourself, or if you're more comfortable doing it in the chat, you can do that. We really would like to foster an engaging and conversational environment today. So I encourage you to come on camera and get to know everyone. But if you're more comfortable or you're in a place where you're not able to turn your camera on, we absolutely understand. So we'll do that for about 15 minutes. And then we've got our entrepreneur expert talks. So we've got two wonderful entrepreneurs today that work in the hospitality and tourism sector. So they'll take us through their journey and their story of how they got started in this space. And then we've got our panel Q&A, so with our two entrepreneurs, as well as a third speaker as well. We do have quite a lot of questions that we crafted out for our speakers, but we're here for you, the attendees. So we will absolutely give you preference and priority with asking your questions. And again, you can either do this by coming on, like using the raise hand function and asking your question on camera, or you can ask in the chat and I can ask on your behalf. And then the final segment will be our networking breakout rooms. So we'll do this for about 30 minutes, and we'll try to do 3 at 10 minutes each, and you'll be in a room with 3 to 4 people total. And this is really a way for you to get to connect with other entrepreneurs that are working within this space. Presumably everyone here works in either hospitality or tourism. So you'll just get to meet other people. And if you have a question maybe that you don't feel comfortable asking in the larger space, then this is your time to ask those questions in a more intimate scenario. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see everyone. That's a lot better. Thank you all so much for turning your cameras on. It is wonderful to see people's faces. So we'll get started on attendee introductions. If you have your camera on, I'm going to assume you're comfortable introducing on camera. So the first person I have here is Mara Surgot.
Hi, good morning. My name is Mara, and I live in Calgary. We moved here 2 years ago from North Carolina. So I am very, very early stage, just wrapped up 20 years at a university at the end of August, and I'm trying to think about some new ideas and new directions. And I'm excited to be here.
Fantastic. Thank you. Welcome, Mara. And I hope we were able to give you some guidance on that. Connor, how you doing?
I'm good. Nice to see you as well.
You too.
So Roamly, if anybody had heard us before, we are now Roamly. We rebranded about a year ago. We were Pathfinder 365 before. And essentially we are Canada's first and only digital operating system for the tourism industry. And we aim to add value to the tourism industry versus all of the other industry, or sorry, all the industry players who actually extract from it. So, and our goal is to really fuel more discovery, true authentic discovery, and more bookings and more growth.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Connor. Suze Laurie, would you like to introduce yourself? The camera isn't on, so I might skip over it, Suze, if you're not able to unmute yourself. So Paddy Hayes, if you'd like to come off mute.
Hi. Sorry, I have a nasty cold. So I run a in-home home care, basically. So we are doing hospitality as well as basically what we're doing in your home. So just wanting to learn what all is out there and what's available elsewhere.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Next up, we've got Amaka. Oh, there you go,
Hi
unmute.
everyone, my name is Amaka George Shobo. I am the tourism coordinator for the city of Maple Ridge. I support and create events, marketing products, tourism products, and destination development strategies for the city, and also implement those. I work with the economic development team in here, and as a municipality, we are ramping up tourism in this community, and that's awesome to see. It's nice to be here and to connect with everyone.
Wonderful. Thank you for joining. Patty Reynolds.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Patty, and I have land in PEI with my husband, and we want to build cottages on it. It's a prime area for cottage rentals, so I'm trying to figure out how to make it happen. And I'm really hoping to learn a lot from all of you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Patty. Bisola, how you doing?
I'm fine, sorry. My throat is a bit sore. My name is Bisola Ogamba. I am coming in all the way from Calgary. Most of us are in Calgary, which is great. Nice to connect with fellow Calgarians here. I am the Senior Program Communications and Content Manager at Riipen. We're going to be sharing more about what we do during the session, but excited to meet everyone here today.
Thank you so much for joining. And Sahan.
Hey everyone. Hi, my name is Sahan. I've been here in the marketing space for 15 years. I'm an AI advisor helping travel and tourism sector, whether it's chatbots, lead generation, content, demand generation. Yeah, make sense of AI.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And Shaylin? Oh, you might just have to unmute yourself.
There we go. Thank you. So my name is Shaylin, and I'm located in Edmonton, Alberta, and I'm actually a brand design strategist and owner of Kind Design Studio. So I help businesses build people-first brands and websites that resonate with their target audience emotionally and functionally. I just love attending these Startup Canada roundtables just to learn more about the amazing startups in different sectors across Canada and connect with other Canadian entrepreneurs.
Lovely. Thanks so much for joining. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Melissa, I hope I pronounced correctly.
Yeah, that's okay. It's always a toss-up because it's spelled so different, but it's just Melissa.
Oh, Melissa. Okay.
Yes.
Well,
So my name is Melissa. I'm a franchise leadership and culture coach. A lot of the work I do is in the quick service restaurant space. As you know, or you may not know, franchising is, I think, the 8th largest industry in Canada. And so growing. And what I do with my business is help leaders have better conversations, more courageous conversations that lead to better business. I have a framework for that. And so I do speaking and podcasting.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Melissa. Bade.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Bade Obasa, and I'm happy to be here, happy to connect with this industry sector. I'm the founder of the Baddest Events based in Ottawa, an events management and consulting brand. I was also one of the people selected for the Pizza Hut collaboration for the competition. So I went all the way to Toronto, so that was a great experience. And I shared my experience on LinkedIn as well, so feel free to check me out. But yeah, I'm excited to be here and I'm excited to learn and make new connections.
Fabulous. Thanks for joining. Juhi? Trust my auntie? Oh, sorry, I saw in the chat. No problem. Suze Laurie.
Thanks, everyone. Sorry about that. I had some tech issues this morning with camera and audio. I'm
No
here.
worries.
It's great to see you. I'm coming to you this morning from Vancouver and Sechelt on the Sunshine Coast, which is north of Vancouver on the traditional territories of the Sechelt Nation. And I'm here as I call myself the curator of Stay Wilder. We have 6 off-grid eco-glamping domes in the forest, and we're really about we say it so many different ways, but this morning I'll say it, we're really about rewilding. We're really about having people connect deeply to nature, to each other, and to themselves. And so we look like, on the surface, we look like an accommodation resort, and we are, but we're really about connecting people to nature. It's a privilege to be here, and I look forward to meeting you. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining. If there's anyone else that would like to introduce themselves who hasn't already, if you want to come on camera now, otherwise you can do so in the chat. Oh, brilliant. Christina, hi.
Oh, hi. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Christina de la Cruz Prey. Yeah, I'm here from Quebec. I just thank you very much for having us today. And I would like to hear and observe about the hospitality, since my main business is bringing workers here in Canada. So I am very curious about hospitality per se. Comes to, what is the progress and those kind of things. And yeah, thank you so much.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Christina. Alicia, I see you have your hand up.
Hi, my name is Alicia. I am calling in from Toronto. I am a yoga and meditation instructor, and what makes me really curious about this meeting is that I'm really into wellness tourism, and I hope to host wellness retreats all over the world and empower women to explore themselves, explore the world, and kind of bring a group of women together. So I look forward to learning more about that and ways I can do that. Thank you so much.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Alicia. I think I saw one more person had their camera on and they turned it off again. So I'll give one more shout out if anyone wants to introduce themselves on camera. Otherwise, we'll get started with our entrepreneur talks. No? All right. So, thank you very much, everyone, for coming on and introducing yourself. It really gives myself and the speakers a good idea of who's in the room, what types of businesses are in the room, and how can we best support you. So thank you so much for doing that. So without further ado, I'm honored to introduce to you our speakers. Speakers, maybe you can just give us a little wave when I say your name. So we've got Bianca Gignac, founder of Italian Fix, Kristal Felea, who is a franchise owner and general manager at Happy Goat, and Sarah Blackmore, who's the VP of Operations at Riipen. So we're going to get started with those entrepreneur expert talks. And Kristal, I'm going to call on you first.
Awesome. Can everyone hear me okay? I hope. Thank you everyone for being here. It's really exciting to hear a little bit about all your different backgrounds, the different businesses that you're in, and why you've come to the virtual table today, so to speak. But we'll start off. My name is Kristal Felea, and as Isabel mentioned, I am the co-owner and general manager of 2 Happy Goat Coffee Company cafes located in Ottawa on the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe peoples. My love affair for coffee started when I was young. I think by grade 12, I actually had a drip coffee maker tucked away in my high school locker. I went to a performing arts high school, and so there was oftentimes we were at school really late into the evening, whether it's rehearsals or prepping, and there wasn't a close coffee shop really walkable nearby. So it was just more convenient to have one after the cafeteria closed at 3 o'clock. So I think looking back, maybe it was a bit of an early sign of where I'd eventually end up, but I didn't know that that was the path I was going to necessarily lead until far later on. But my today, I mean, I've got 2 cafe franchises, and my life partner is also my business partner, and we have another silent partner who's actually based out of Calgary. So we like to say we've got this like reach with potential for growth as we are planning out our future. And we've really been helping to build community around every cup of coffee. So for those of you who may not be aware, Happy Goat is a very, I would say, Ottawa-centric brand. They are a specialty coffee roaster that's been around since the early 2010s, and it's grown to about 15 cafes across Ottawa, and is, I think, in around 60 other sort of local establishments, whether that's through wholesale or through like grocery and that sort of thing. At its heart is we have a really special individual, Dr. Hans, who is our master roaster. He's such an interesting guy. He's got some great videos on YouTube, and he's got these crazy eyebrows that just kind of stick out and are wild. So he's quite the personality, but his background is deeply rooted in anthropology, and he has a rare passion for understanding coffee from seed to cup. And I like to say he's a bit of our secret weapon for a lot of our success and a lot of our sustainability sort of backing that's behind the corporate company itself. The Happy Goat identity has been built on a foundation of sort of direct ethical sourcing, and along with that, environmental responsibility. So that is very near and dear to our hearts, even as franchise owners. During the pandemic is really when we shortly thereafter got involved in the coffee business, and a lot of businesses struggled, as we are well aware, and the company had to do a bit of a hard pivot into the e-commerce space. So, I mean, now, which is great, we are shipping coffee across Canada, which is fantastic, and so it's popping up all over the place, which is very cool to see. But they also opened a couple of new locations during this time, and in new neighborhoods, new builds, and one of those was in a residential area that didn't have a lot of commercial businesses in this space, nice and tucked away, but fairly central in the Ottawa area. And it ended up thriving. So that cafe later became the first franchise, and happy to say that we were the, if you will, the guinea pigs of the whole endeavor. So our job was to take something that was already operational, learn it inside and out, and help refine the franchise model for future partners. And fun fact, latte art is harder than it looks. I am still constantly trying to refine my heart, which is like maybe the most basic of latte art designs that you can do. But just be nice to your local baristas because they put a lot of love and creativity into everything that they pour. My own career, going back a little bit, did not begin in coffee, but my background is actually in video production and then later pivoted into marketing and advertising. So I became a partner at a mid-sized Ottawa agency at the age of 26. And at that point, I was the youngest in the firm's history. And it was really my first venture into entrepreneurship. And I was one of 6 partners. So you are making group decisions, which is an experience in and of itself when you're owning and operating a business. Trying to keep people employed, all of the fun things. Grant, who is my life partner, on the other hand, comes from the hospitality and the craft beer industry and has owned and operated restaurants in the past. So we hadn't worked together professionally, but I think between knowing his hospitality sort of experience, my marketing and communications background, we both ended up having, past retail experience, customer service centric, of course. We believe we had the right mix to make it work. Also, happy to report, we have since discovered that we have very complementary skill sets, which actually works very nicely. In the days in and the days out of, everything that you have to juggle when owning and operating your own business, you can appreciate. What I've learned and what I want to leave everyone here with today is that, and I'm sure, I think hopefully you'll agree, that hospitality is both an art and a discipline. And there are maybe a few guiding principles that I like to follow that ensure that we are heading in the right direction. We're providing the best service and quality to our customers on a regular basis. And for me, the number one thing coming in was having really strong standard operating procedures. So part of us being the guinea pig in the franchise model for this company was there was a lot of things that people were doing. Not necessarily everything may have been written down, or how to sort of gauge nuance when you're working with varying skill sets or different personalities. Obviously, I work in an industry where I do have a lot of turnover. That is inevitable. We, see a lot of, I would say, people come and go, but consistency in both culture and I think communications can help to keep, your standards alive. And so at the sort of center of everything that we do on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, everything sort of falls back under our standard operating procedures when we can. And it also just kind of makes things easy for people to follow, because people, I do want to say from a team standpoint, like having guidance and direction so that they can feel like they're accomplishing something when they show up for work. I think the other important element is to treat people with dignity and respect. Your staff end up seeing things that you don't necessarily, because you can't always be there. So you have to do your best to listen to them and to communicate. Trust grows really when people feel heard. And so if you receive feedback from a customer or a client or from even a team member, I think it's important to really listen to them and hear what they're trying to communicate back to you. I would say customer service is also needs to be prioritized in the hospitality industry, as many of you I'm sure are aware. I think on my side, asking how can we enhance someone's stay or just make the fine art of giving them their coffee, whether they're staying with us or they're taking their coffee to go, can go a long way. And you can easily turn someone who might be a little frantic or, maybe they're a little down, you can easily put a smile on their face and or hopefully make their day a little smoother, and I love the feeling of that and the sentiment of that. But also having clear, genuine communication is often the difference between a good experience and a memorable one. And so making sure that we're being clear and kind with our customers is also a high priority for us. We work in an industry where we have a lot of suppliers, and so relationships are important in that regard and do thrive on trust and transparent communication yet again. So especially when times get tough, if you need to ask for an extension on payment terms, for instance, having good relationships with your partners and your suppliers can go a long way in those moments when maybe you need it the most. And so I love even when my delivery guys are dropping something off, I love offering them a free coffee just if they want to take it to go. A lot of time they turn it down, but I think also just the kindness and the effort kind of goes a long way in all of that. And on the business side of things, managing cash flow is probably one of the most important things. We're not a high price point product that we're offering. And so there's a lot of, payments that have to be made, whether that's payroll being important, paying our vendors, tip outs for the team, sometimes just making sure that we're focused on the basics before, let's say, investing into new cushions or new artwork for the walls or, things of that nature. Sometimes you end up having to prioritize that just based off of making sure people are taken care of. And I think finally spending time on your business and not just in your business. And I think, taking back and being able to communicate your vision and set the direction for growth and making sure that that's aligned with the parent company's sort of direction in how they're hoping to do things is very important to be mindful of in the entire process. Moving forward, I think there's so much that the parent company supports us on, but there's still effort that has to be made at the local level for my two cafes who have very different audiences to ensure that we're listening to our communities and sort of turning out exceptional customer service and product on an ongoing basis. I think for me, success comes down to a couple of skill sets, and many of them I've sort of alluded to already, but for me, it's people skills. So listening, connecting, building trust, again, customers, employees, partners, I think is instrumental. Community and connection is a really important one for me. I think part of my goal is to create spaces where people feel like they belong and want to continue coming back. And sometimes that's multiple times a day. I have amazing local customers that they'll come in the morning for a cortado, and then they'll come in the evening for our happy hour because we are a licensed establishment, and it gives us a different way of bringing people back into the establishment, but for a different reason, and just kind of being that hangout spot where they like to spend their time when they have it. Communication, I think I've mentioned a few times already, but I can't say it enough. I think being clear with your staff, I think being transparent with your partners, having that transparency as well with our franchisor, parent company, and just being intentional with our customers. I think the way that we tell our story and the way all brands need to, tell their story kind of shapes the overall experience of your brand and how people feel your brand in different ways. And I think that should happen at every touch point, whether that's before they come into the store on social media or once they're, in your establishment and leaving. And then resourcefulness would be the fourth, probably key skill set. I think constantly solving problems and finding ways to improve how we operate is something that doesn't stop. There's always ways to refine. When we get new staff in that have worked at other cafes, I really like to ask them what's worked well for them in the past, and is that something that I can sort of consider in how we are operating, within our cafe and our framework. But sometimes it also means you have to fix the toilets, which is obviously not very glamorous, but it's either you learn how to fix things yourself or you pay someone to do it. And if you can save money by being resourceful or learning how to do things, YouTube comes in very handy a lot, maybe too often, then you can kind of save some money on operational expenses that you may have not budgeted for in the first place. So I think, in closing, I'm going to wrap it up. I started with coffee in my locker, and now I get to build businesses and communities around them. And I think that's the beauty of the industry. And it's about more than just a product, and it's about the people and the connection and the resilience in the communities. And so, for all of you that are building your own ventures, I encourage you to stay curious and stay connected, and don't necessarily be afraid to be the guinea pig and help to shape something new as it's coming together. But thank you. And I turn it back over to Isabel.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kristal, for taking us through that journey. Definitely a few things that you mentioned that I want to kind of dig into shortly. So thank you so much for going through that. Bianca, I'll pass it over to you to tell your story.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see you. Really good to hear what everyone's up to. I think rooms like this, whether virtually or in real life, are so, so important. And just like thank you to Startup Canada for creating this space and for the invitation. I'm really happy to be here. My name is Bianca Gignac, and I own a travel company called Italian Fix. What we do is help people travel Italy beautifully. And I've been doing that for 15 years. I can't believe I'm still alive after 15 years because I started my company with no money, no prior experience, no funding. I bootstrapped everything. And it's been a wild ride, but I'm kind of proof that if you have a lot of gumption and you never quit, you can actually do it. And you know what? A lot of people told me I couldn't. And actually, people, closest family members to me, because they want to make you safe and they want to protect you and they want to keep you, they just want to protect you. So you might be hearing, "Ooh, are you sure you want to do that?" And when you tell people your ideas, but I'm just like, keep hanging around in rooms like this because there's plenty of stories of people who stick with it. I started my company a little bit by accident because I lived in Italy for a number of years because I married somebody from the north of Italy. And I wasn't planning to run a travel company. Actually, I have an education in fine arts. So I believed I was going to be an artist. And now all the pieces of the puzzle are connected because what I went to art school for, I realized that I really love creating something from nothing. And a bootstrap company and an original idea is really starting something from nothing. And I proved out my concept, and I also proved out myself as a side hustle. I actually worked when I first moved back from Italy. I had a husband without Canadian work papers, and I had college debt, and I had this concept, but I was like, not now. I need to make money in an actual job. So I worked at my actual job, and then this was my side hustle. And I actually was doing that for about 4 years. And then after 4 years, I went all in and I bet on myself. And I think that an entrepreneur is very much a career decision. I think proving out something on the side is really, really valid. And sometimes people want to burn the bridge, and that works well for them. For me, I needed my safety net, and I needed to feel like I had a proven concept before I went all in. Then when I went all in, I was all in, and I will tell you, all in. And that's the kind of commitment it takes. So if there's a piece of you, like my advice, I have 4 main pieces of advice today, but it really starts with this concept of the founder and the CEO being 100% all in on themselves. Because actually the road, the 15-year journey, if I look back, I'm still here because I believed so greatly in myself. Even products, might fail or team might leave or something like this, but actually I always was like, Bianca, you will figure it out. And so entrepreneurship is a career decision. Being a founder and a CEO is a career decision. There's many career decisions you can take in your life, but it's a very serious career decision. And I'm very committed to it because I feel like that with that commitment, with that 110% betting on yourself, I think you can do great things. I always say hospitality is, you know, the best of jobs and the worst of jobs, because on the best days, you know, my clients, they're traveling. I have clients in Sicily right now. They're traveling. They're at a winery right now. They're with my guide. They're having the time of their life. Before they were on the boat. I mean, I have happy clients. Everyone shows up to have a good time. We do, you know, 5 to 8 night tours throughout all of Italy. Cinque Terre, Sicily, the Amalfi Coast, Puglia, Ischia, all the cool places in Italy, we take them. So that's a very operationally heavy business model. And because I didn't have prior experience in the business model, I've just really honed in on what I believe that the founder's role is. The founder's role is a Swiss Army knife. You have to be good enough at everything, but you can't be too over-indexed on one thing. Do not get over-indexed on one thing. When I say over-indexed, I'm saying don't spend all your time on product, because then your marketing's a mess. Don't spend all your time on marketing, because then your product's a mess. You've got to be just enough to be dangerous. And so the 4 things that I believe a founder's job is: number 1, you got to keep money in the company. That's your main obsession every day. Your team tries to pull you into small things. No, that's your job. You go do your job. My job is bringing money inside this company. Okay? So that's keeping people paid is how you stay alive for a decade, because it's the number 1 thing. Cash flow is the number 1 killer of companies. So if you're going to go bootstrap, or even if you have some funding, you need to bring capital into the company. So that's your number 1 job. Number 2, I suggest, and this has served me really well, and I've sort of learned this, I'd say it's a natural skill set of mine, because I am very creative. And like I said, I have an artist background. So I'm maniacal on product. Maniacal. So here's an example of how to review a hospitality product. So we have an 8-night tour in Sicily right now. In 3 days, when the tour is finished, I will have an interview with a guide. By the way, he's been working with me for 10 years. So, you know, I know a lot about the product already. I have, in 15-minute increments, the whole 8 nights on a spreadsheet. Every single 15 minutes of the product is reviewed and things are moved. And then everything goes into a tour change log. And those changes are noted for next product, because, you know, you forget over year. And then we add customer comment to that. So that's what I say. It's maniacal. And we have KPIs with key performance indicator. That means your KPIs decide on the KPIs of your company. And mine are repeat clients. I only care about a world-class company, and I only care about a world-class product. And that gives me a world-class rebooking rate and a world-class NPS score. And the NPS score is Net Promoter Score, and you can Google that. But you can ask a series of questions to your clientele, so you keep your NPS at the 90 plus. Some of my clients have spent over $80,000 with me, and my products are only $6,000 to $10,000. So when people are spending $80,000 and $90,000, and that's not all their travel costs, that's not flights or anything, that's just my product. So that's why I'm saying be maniacal about product, because when you're maniacal about product, your product sells and people come back, because repeat clients are your bread and butter. Number 3 is borrow money when you don't need it. I learned this one the hard way, my friends, and it almost sunk me. You know that I actually called a bankruptcy lawyer during the pandemic, and I said, things are really bad. We've processed $200,000 worth of refunds in 24 hours. And I've burned all my cash. So what to do? And this lawyer said, wow, we never get calls from people before they get into trouble. We always get calls after they're in trouble. I was like, okay, no, that, you know, that things were going to be very bad for me, and I sort of knew it. So he says, well, you know what? Why corporations fold is because they restructure. And I said, tell me about that. And he says, well, yeah, you have a corporation, so you can close that, and then you can restructure, and then you can go and resell tours, and all the debts you have, you won't have to pay them. And I got off the phone and I just, you know, my heart was beating, but I went, you know, made myself like lunch, and I just sat there and I thought, there's no way that I'm defaulting on my clients. There's no way. So but I had to speak to everyone. So I called them up and I said, we can't serve your product right now because we can't fly you, like we can't fly to Italy and we can't deliver your product. But mark my words, we will serve you your product when the borders open and everything's good. And we did that. But I had to go and get another job during the pandemic. Well, I actually started another company. I didn't actually get another job, right, to float us. And I kept all my staff and I kept all my clients, and I survived. So borrow money when you don't need it, okay? Because when I didn't need it, I didn't have any operating lines of credit. That was very stupid, okay? Now I understand you need really a high operating line of credit. So if you get into trouble, you can dip into it. But banks are never going to give you when you don't need it. And then always just think long-term with every decision, whether it comes from team or whether it comes from product or whether it comes from customers. Be like, am I like a long-term thinking this through right now? Because I think long-term thinking is, you know, that skill set that you're not born with, because we're all born with, oh, let's just get this done today. But it is the entrepreneurial skill that you build and that will keep you going. So, you know, life in the bootstrapping world isn't that easy. I believe, you know, if I could do it all over again, I would have went to get help in the beginning. But in the same sense, if you have a concept or a business idea, you don't need anyone. You need faith in yourself, number one. You don't build anything by yourself. It takes a village. But this conviction and this personal conviction, I hope that I shared that with you, that if you kind of self-identify with somebody who's gonna figure it out and never quit, you can do anything. And I'm super proud of everything I've done. And it's given me so much confidence that nothing kind of makes me flinch anymore. So that's why I say the career of an entrepreneur is really the best, you know, personal development you could ever do. So thank you.
Love that, Bianca. Thank you so much. I loved your comment about the job of an entrepreneur is sort of like a Swiss knife. But just like the multiple hats that people have to wear and constantly going back and forth in what's needed of them. So thank you so much, Bianca and Kristal, for taking us through your journey. Sarah, I'd love to give you the floor now to kind of better understand who you are and the role you play. And yeah, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you. I cannot top either of those two stories from Kristal and Bianca. They're incredible. Thank you for having me again with this panel of incredible entrepreneurs, as I am technically not one, but I work for a lot of entrepreneurs. So my name is Sarah Blackmore. I'm the VP of Operations at a tech company called Riipen. I cut my teeth originally at the beginning of my career in hospitality. I worked in hotels for a very long time. And that kind of work ethic and working in the hospitality industry when you're face-to-face with customers like that all day has been something I've really carried through with me into my career. And I moved into the technology field about 10 years ago. And in the last 10 years, my roles primarily in these technology companies have been how to help these entrepreneurs scale their businesses. I come from a human resources background. following my hospitality experience. And in an operational role today, my job realistically is to figure out how to make our company as successful as possible. And Riipen sits in the education technology space, and one of hearing all of these stories today, specifically from Kristal and Bianca, is they've talked a lot about how they invest in their people, and how those people really are the drivers of their business. And a lot of the work that we do at Riipen that really sort of sits very well with me. We talk a lot about how different kind of career paths with specifically youth entering the workforce can be really impactful for entrepreneurs specifically, and there's a tremendous number of talent paths that young people can take into these kinds of industries that they don't know about, and in turn business founders and entrepreneurs don't necessarily know about how to be able to access some of these hidden talent pools. And so that's kind of some of the things that I would like to kind of talk a little bit about as we continue on this call today.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much, Sarah. I appreciate you joining today and being able to come in through that perspective for the people. So we'll go into our panel discussion now. Just to remind everyone, if you have a question you would like to ask any of our speakers, you can use the raise hand function and ask on camera, or you can ask in the chat and I can ask on your behalf for you. I'll kick things off with something, and I think that this is definitely a topic that everyone that works within hospitality and tourism thinks about, is seasonality. And so how do you, and this sort of to Kristal and Bianca, how do you handle seasonality and demand fluctuations that are common within this space? Kristal, maybe I'll go to you first.
Sure. I just went through a phase of this actually. So one of our cafes is located on the University of Ottawa sort of neighborhood campus, which is located in downtown Ottawa. And I would say most, except for 2 of my staff, are still in school. So they're still students. And of course, everyone wants full-time hours during the summer so they don't have to go get another job. But when school comes around, it's almost like, okay, when are you getting our schedule confirmed? And, sending constant reminders. So I start poking and asking staff and sort of planting the seed. I want to say at the end of July, I was starting to like plant the seed in their ear about, let me know as soon as you sort of lock and load what your new schedule is going to be, just so you can begin to predict, okay, do I have to onboard someone? Because when September hits, this location goes from being super calm, I'd say, in the summer to when the semester is on, you can't find a seat in my cafe, and it's a lot of students, but I constantly have lines out to the door nonstop, and so it's hard to actually onboard when it's that busy all the time. And so being ahead of the game, I think it took us at least, I think it was our first full year to actually like be able to figure out what that map or that flow of seasonality sort of looked like for both of our cafes, and both were different, just based off of the neighborhoods that they were located in. And yeah, we kind of like dealt with everything as it was thrown at us in that first year, and then finally in our second year we were able to better predict. And so if we know that there's our other location is across the street from a high school graduation day, all the families were coming in for coffee or breakfast, before and after the graduation ceremony. I would have loved the first year to have a third person, on and scheduled that day. But again, we learned things. I now have things in my calendar as reminders for, either phases or periods when community events are happening, so on and so forth. So I can kind of make sure that I'm staffed appropriately. But also it's a high turnover industry. So part of that just sort of comes with the course. I make sure I have at least 2 full-timers at each location as almost like my mainstays. And for me, full-time in the cafe is anywhere between 30 to 37, 40 hours, depending. And then everyone else is part-time. And I give the staff that are currently working for me priority, and I'm clear, and I communicate with them. I say, hey guys, I don't have enough people to work on Wednesdays. I have to hire someone. And they don't like when that has to happen, because A, that means they are more involved in training, and B, they now have to split their tip pool. So they like kind of keeping it at a smaller team. And so that's when, once in a while someone will be like, actually, I can probably switch this day for this day if that's more useful for you. And so we work really closely together to make sure that we kind of fill in those gaps. But it's definitely a learning curve, but I want to say it took us probably a solid year to kind of figure out what that sort of pathway looked like.
Great. Yeah, and now you kind of have that blueprint, if you will, of in and around what your year will look like, so you can at least make educated decisions on that. Bianca, how about yourself? How do you deal with that? And do you have a lull season or a lull period? Take me through that.
Yeah, so seasonality is a really big operations system. So if you think of all of the, just go back to my Swiss Army analogy before, product, marketing, operations, if you put the marketing hat, or excuse me, the operational hat on, seasonality is operations. So what are the 2 or 3 operational things that you can do to control seasonality to the best of your ability inside of the business model that you're working with? So I'm just going to give you an example so it solidifies what I'm trying to say. So for us, we have a time of the year when we are running no tours, and then we have a time of the year that we're running all tours. So we have a 18-month spreadsheet. It's called incoming and outgoing, and it's every single penny. This is why I'm saying it's very operational. It's every single penny that's coming in and coming out of the business. We have that mapped out over 18 months. Okay. If you do that, you will start to see your cash flow up and downs. Okay. And then you can plan for it. Another thing is the same concept as an ingoing and outgoing cash flow sheet. I call it a Gantt chart. It's what we use in my company. By the way, it took me a long time to figure all this stuff out. We didn't learn this in art school, I'll tell you that. Okay, I've learned all of this, but it's not that hard. It's just, again, in the operations and planning. So for example, on our chart is every single thing that we need to do in that specific week of the 52 weeks of the year. And if you keep track of it in the early stages, a lot of people are early stage with our companies here. If you keep track of that early stage, you actually, just like every operation inside of your business, it gets more refined. So just start with 1 or 2 things and look at it in an operational lens, and then just implement 1 or 2 things and say, how can I make seasonality less of a pain in the patootie for me? Because seasonality is really, really hard, and it's the hardest on cash flow. So just within your business model, do 1 or 2 things, and you can implement or start the bones of it tomorrow. Just decide what those 2 things are.
Love that. And you're using it to your advantage, basically. Like the knowledge is power aspect of it is, if you can predict it and work your operations around that. I think that's so clever to think that way. Sarah, something that Kristal talked about was, like the high turnover of like the inevitable high turnover of staff within this space, especially within like hospitality. Through your career, you're helping scale companies by building high performing teams. So for an entrepreneur that's maybe venturing into going through their first hires, what advice do you have for them? What maybe are the first hires that they should be considering that can help them grow? And what qualities should they be looking for beyond just the resume?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it's it's always going to be super specific to the business that you're building. Like Kristal needing to hire, to be on, within the retail space is a very different kind of first few hires than it would be for someone that wasn't going to be in a business like that. But a lot of what Bianca said is actually all of the thoughts that I was having around hiring. Like certain things, like getting a really good viewpoint on your business operations and your things like your cash flow. Like I've seen a number of different companies really, like founders often are they're always usually founding their business because they love the space in which they exist. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're coming into that with a strong business acumen, a marketing background, people and culture experience. They're coming in because they love the thing that they're building, the thing that they're selling, and the thing that they want to do with their lives. And so realistically, the best piece of advice I could give any entrepreneur looking to found a business is figure out what your biggest gaps are and fill those, because you're completely special in going into this business because you love the thing. Don't hire for someone that also loves the thing. You can do that, but you need to fill the gaps and the work that you don't like, so you can focus on the work that you do like. So that can often be someone, it doesn't even, not every job needs to be full-time and not every job needs to be long-term either, but someone that can really help you get a foot up in finances is really critical. So you can actually see how your business is operating and give you real advice. Gantt charts are amazing because they're visual, and entrepreneurs are often very creative. And so visuals help try and understand what your business actually looks like from a flow perspective. Someone that can help you ideally with some of the legal side of things, specifically when it comes to employees, depending on where you're based. Obviously within Canada, every province is different in regards to how you need to structure things like employment and how you can take on things like seasonal staff and your responsibilities to those seasonal staff. So getting someone that can really help you with that, if that's not your background, is a really strong thing. And as you continue to scale, that becomes more and more critical. I've seen a lot of businesses not focus on that area and find themselves a little bit stuck when it comes to things like how to effectively manage a culture and how to effectively make sure that your people are engaged. And then ideally, if you can find someone that's obsessive about customers as you are, I think that's always really great, because trust is the critical thing. So when you ask me about kind of qualities that you need to find in someone, there has to be, it doesn't need to come from previous experience necessarily. It doesn't need to come from backgrounds that are similar to yours, but someone that you can really trust to be as obsessive about your customers as you are, that you can trust is going to act as a brand ambassador and like try and look after the business in the same way that you would. Like those are the kinds of qualities that really make a difference, I think, when you're an entrepreneur scaling a business. That partnership is really crucial. And then lean into seasonality. Like you don't have to hire people that last forever, and that's okay. Especially in hospitality, there's always a seasonality to, it can be quite a transient business. And so finding the right people, even for a short period of time, is better than finding someone average that's going to be with you for a while.
Excellent. Love that. And I love your point about, finding someone that is as enthusiastic or will be as enthusiastic about your vision in your company, because you're not always going to be present. I think Kristal made that point as well. Like you're not always going to be there, so find people that can carry that through. Because a lot of the time, a lot of what people do in their day-to-day jobs in any sector, that's all teachable. Like you can teach people these skills if they don't necessarily have the right experience, but that enthusiasm and that motivation isn't really something you can teach. So I think that's a really great takeaway. Thank you. There's a question from Sahan in the chat, so I'll throw it out to all of our speakers. But curious to know as to how anyone's using AI right now, and where would you avoid and where would you embrace? Kristal, Bianca, Sarah,
I have an interesting thing about AI right now.
Go for it, yeah.
Actually, we've changed up some of our marketing because of AI. We run, so italianfix.com, we've been writing content on there for about 12 years. We have so much SEO. And what we realized is that when you drop in ChatGPT or any of the language models, specific questions about the Cinque Terre or about Sicily, it would scrape our content. And I decided last year, I said to some of my team, we are removing all the names of the villages we visit on our website, because we need to protect our own IP. Because because, you know, people's websites are scraped. Yes, we want to show up in search. Absolutely. And I'm not saying remove all of your SEO from your site, not at all. Keep your SEO, but if your product is sort of reliant on some of this special IP like ours were, you know, we would list the villages that we'd go to. I'm like, we need to protect those villages because over tourism is a real issue. And that was like a operational thing that I did. I said, I don't want our special IP that has taken me so much time, energy, and money to create, just being able for the world to see. So we removed some of that. So it's very interesting when companies we're getting it from all angles. And yes, of course, we use AI in some of our marketing, but I also know my customers. And I would say that we're doing a little bit of AI backlash, meaning when somebody writes us, the automation is like, hi, you're going to speak to a real human. We're real humans in this office. And when I'm on sales calls, we're always saying, no, we're just a bunch of working mothers in the office here. We got you. We will handle this. So it's this anti-AI and the anti everything is automated thing that the messaging for your marketing, I think you need to come in even more so and say, hey, look, we're a little bit different. I know other people do things like this. They're just kind of undercutting or worrying about their bottom line. We're a small company. So think about how your messaging inside of your company can do some of this backlash thing. And people love it, especially my demographic. We have people who are, I'd say my demographic is over 45 and they love the real humans and they don't want to speak to a bot. I'm not saying that if I ran another business model, I wouldn't do that. I just know for my clientele, we have put a lot of this in our messaging, and it is a direct result from the messaging going on in the general culture.
Yeah, no, that's so interesting because it's maybe, and I sort of have a follow-up question to that is, have you noticed, because I hear a lot of people, like just, you know, people in my life saying if they're going on a vacation, they say, oh, I just asked ChatGPT, like, if this is where I'm going, this is what I want to do. And, you know, it pulls together an itinerary for them. Are you noticing that affecting your business, or are you not worried because your clientele, you've got a great like loyal customer base? Is it having any sort of effect?
I mean, I worry about everything. Let's be real. I worry about how all of that affects us. But again, I think every business here needs to think about what do they have that's beyond the automation that's already using, because we can't, we can't fight it. We have to know it's in the culture, and all of your customers are leaning into these other ways to do business. So it's always in the messaging saying, you know what, yes, you can just Google or use AI for XYZ, but is that really the same as going to a market with somebody who speaks the local dialect and who knows Francesco? Is that the same? And people go, no, of course it's not the same. They can see it, right? So it's up to the founder to say, what is my USP and what's my differentiation within my product suite, and how am I speaking against this sort of culture right now? And, humans and people, we want other humans to help us with our problems. Yes, of course we want to use AI, but we want customer service. I'd say nobody has ever gotten off the phone and said, oh, I'm so glad I just talked to that bot. No, no one.
Yeah. No, excellent point. Yeah. Thank you so much. And we're getting some good questions in the chat. Kristal, there's one for you here from Melissa. What made you decide to choose a franchise business model, and how do you maintain consistency across locations as you grow?
It's a great question. So answering the first part, I mean, there's obviously pros and cons to starting a business from scratch. And as Bianca has spoken to, it's a grueling process, and many people bootstrap and make a go at it and whatnot. The other option is to purchase something that's existing, whether that's something that you're taking over, or in our case, it was a franchise. And I mean, knowing the brand and being close to the brand as a customer for a number of years, and seeing the growth that the business had was like the initial sort of hook, I think, for us. And then being able to, when we were evaluating, you know, which location do we want to take on, and this first one in particular that had done really, really well, it had opened during COVID. It would open at a time where it was like grab and go coffee only, and no one was actually enjoying the dining room. That, you know, I've got lots of beautiful windows and I've got a great patio now. No one was enjoying that before. Your coffee was in a takeout cup. It wasn't served in a beautiful, you know, ceramic, you know, a device. So even the sort of traditional, I would say, elements of a coffee shop sort of still, you know, it didn't affect the growth and the demand. And so for us, you know, we had realized, okay, maybe there's something to this. And being the guinea pigs, we have this very special working relationship with the parent company, where we're working with them on how do we standardize a lot of the franchisee, franchisor sort of elements. What is that divide? There is that constant communication. There's that constant feedback wheel of, hey, this is how you all do things internally, but this doesn't work for us, and this is why. And, you know, constantly refining that model that I think seemed really, we were very fortunate to have that. I know in other franchise models, you're sort of like signing up, here's your sales sheet, this is what your buy-in is, this is what, you know, your franchise fees are, and, you know, you got to secure a location. Didn't really have to think about too much of that right at the beginning, because we already had a location. We were working on them with the actual franchise deal and the agreement. And so we were, I think, lucky in that process, but it was an established brand. And so for us, I think, not having to build the brand awareness, not having to handle a lot of the upfront marketing and advertising that you would normally do if you're starting from scratch, we were operational when we were handed over the keys after we finalized the sale. And so we knew, I think, based off of that we could at least have a go at it. And what my partners and I said to each other was, worst case scenario, if this doesn't work as the franchise, we have a coffee shop that we just get to rebrand and have fun. And I still already have customers that know and trust us because we are in the cafe operating it on a daily basis. And so I think, to me, that's also important, is having that close connection to the customer. So I speak with them every time I'm in the shop. Many of them, I hear about the dates they've gone on. I hear about grandkids. I hear about, you know, so-and-so graduated. And it's actually really, really cool. And I love having that personal touch point. But my partner and I are constantly literally running back and forth between the two cafes to make sure that everything is sort of operational and standard between the two shops. So we are very hands-on. So I call myself a general manager, but I am the manager. And my partner and I sort of, you know, slice and dice. One day he'll be at one location, I'm at the other. Some days we swap in between. So we're just we're constantly with the team day in and day out, and also getting to know our customers as best we can.
Love that. Thank you. And Alicia's asked a question around getting clients and maybe like securing first clients. Bianca, what was that like for you in the first days? Because, you know, you're building that trust up with people. And so how did you convey, or rather articulate, the value that you're bringing, and then so getting those first few customers and then retaining them as well?
Yeah, those are really good questions. My mind just pops it over again to, you know, if I'd like to go back and stick my product hat on. I think that first customers and first product are really important. And just kind of obsess about just a couple of clients and maybe one or two products. in the beginning, I feel like you know, and I wasn't cognizant of it. I just made a decision. I'm gonna run this one product. And that product became my bread and butter. And right now, you know, if you go on the website, we do a lot of different tours. We're even doing a scouting and relocation tour, which means you can go and look at properties in Italy. And if you want to stay 3 or 6 months, and we go from Lucca to Lecce, and like we're getting into that stuff. But 15 years ago, I was like, I just need 7 customers and I just need one product. And I think if you can clear out all the chaos of all the other things you believe you should be doing and really focus, like, have you ever read like Kevin Kelly's 100 True Fans? I do believe in that. Just focus on your first cohort, focus on your first group, and focus on your first product, and don't get too distracted. When I see new founders come out and they're coming out of the gates with 7 different products, I know that that's a rookie move. I just know it, because that's great if you have endless money in the bank, but growing customers or growing product sounds like this. That's like money blowing out of your bank account. It's really expensive. So therefore, if you don't have limitless capital or even a good stack of capital, go really small. It's not mean that you're thinking big. I know you're thinking big, because you're not going to be on a call like this if you're not thinking big. You've got to be a certain kind of person to show up in a room like this. So you're already thinking big and dreaming big, but acting small and focusing on just those first few customers and literally picking up the phone, right? Where everything is so digital nowadays, and you sort of, the culture is like scale, and no, that's not it. When you're first starting out, you pick up the phone and you cold call, or you cold email, or you go on. My very first client was from a forum. It was from an Italy chat forum, and they were like, oh, our restaurants open in Cinque Terre in November. And I chatted, they're absolutely not. All the owners are in the Maldives in November, because I live there. So this is what I'm saying. Just be really focused on your first few customers and don't make it complex. Make it as simple as possible, because that's cheap.
Excellent feedback. Thank you. Sarah, I'd love to talk a little bit more about how Riipen helps startups, and you know, how you kind of are fitting into that into the ecosystem. So I know that Riipen connects students with, you know, real world projects. How can early stage entrepreneurs in this sector, so hospitality or tourism, effectively leverage partnerships, maybe with educational institutions, to find talent and help with innovative solutions?
Yeah, definitely. I would love to talk about that. Riipen is built from 2 perspectives. One, it's built from students need to gain real world experience. They're going to be the talent of the future entering our workforce. And it's hard out there. That's one. The second perspective is from small businesses. Small businesses are often, as we've heard this today, like, cash flow is king. It can be very difficult during seasonal times to be able to, one, be able to have enough support to be able to get things off your desk and get stuff done, but at the same time, enough money coming in to be able to invest in something like that. And so Riipen was really born from this idea of connecting students with small to medium-sized businesses, and ideally driving this incredible dual impact piece where students gain the experience and the small to medium businesses can thrive. That's what Riipen does. We exist as a marketplace where we have students looking for kind of projects, and we have educators who are embedding those kinds of real life projects into their curriculum, and we have employers who've got some, you know, they need new insights, they've got things they want to take off their to-do list that they feel confident in being able to outsource, and students is the perfect place for that. So there are a couple of ways that entrepreneurs can think about this. I mean, first and foremost, there are some incredible schools across Canada with really phenomenal programs, hospitality programs, yes, but also business programs, data programs, cybersecurity programs, the tremendous amount of upskilling and reskilling with individuals looking to get into new workforces. And a lot of those educational institutions are running work integrated learning courses where instead of a capstone or instead of a business case or a case competition, that those students are actually being partnered with real businesses to be able to go in and complete some project work. Riipen ourselves, we feel very strongly about being part of this ecosystem and community. And we have students that come and work for us on projects all the time, and we work with their faculty, and they gain the experience of coming and working for an organization like us. So that's one. You can build relationships with your local higher education institutions. There's often programs within there that are looking to partner with local businesses for things like non-traditional co-op programs or internships, and that is a phenomenal way of being able to, one, give back to your community, two, build brand awareness, which is always really great, and three, be able to actually take some of those things that you need to get done and have them done. The other way of doing it is with programs that are typically funded by the government, and this is where this can be really powerful. So Riipen runs a couple of different programs where we're very, very fortunate to receive government funding that goes directly into the student's pocket to pay them for the work that they do. And it helps subsidize the wages of an organization that wouldn't necessarily normally be able to access student talent. We run two. One is called Level Up and one is called Future Path. Level Up is a program that has typically, the students have to be enrolled in higher education, and they're typically in their first and second year, and they are looking to complete projects. Employers come to Riipen, we help them craft their projects. They can be anything from helping you build a sales strategy, rebranding your website, pulling together a social media calendar for you, like anything that needs that human person to do it that you can't throw into ChatGPT. The students can take on those kinds of projects. And then they take on these projects, they're 60 hours, and ultimately Riipen pays them $23 plus an hour to be able to do that. There's no cost to the employer at all. And you can run a couple of those a year. The other program that we run is called Future Path, which is typically geared towards students at the end of their education. So they're actually looking to enter the workforce long time and they're refining their skills. That program is a subsidized program to 50%. So 50% of the stipend wage payments comes from Riipen by the government, and the other comes from the small to medium-sized business that's looking to engage with those students. And those can be a lot longer in scope. Those can be up to 300 hours. So I don't know if anyone's familiar with like the student work placement program or other programs like SWIP through the government, where you have to hire someone, you put them on your payroll, you apply for it, you have to get reimbursed. This is an alternative to a program like that, where you've already been pre-approved by the funding for us. And you can actually hire someone coming through that Riipen network, and you post your job, and it kind of works like a little mini gig marketplace where you can review those students coming in, talk to them about your project, and ultimately pick 1 or 2 or 3 or 10, depending on what you need to get done, and they can do that work for you. And it's all managed through the Riipen platform, which makes it a little bit easier without having to put these people on your payroll. And that's really the key. When you're thinking about cash flow and you need to be able to do things in a lean way and in a quick and iterative way, these kinds of programs, whether it's through an academic institution or whether it's through a subsidized program like this, can give you that extra, you can get stuff off your to-do list. Like, it gives you that extra without necessarily having to think about hiring someone, training someone, onboarding someone. You have to guide them, but it can be a little bit more accessible and a much quicker turnaround than it would if you had to actually go through a formal job process.
No, it's fantastic, especially for anyone who is, who may not have the cash or the funding to be able to bring someone on full time, or it's just 1 or 2 things that they need.
Or the network, right? Like, this is the other thing. It can be so insular being an entrepreneur. Like, this is a way to be able to access talent that you wouldn't necessarily have yourself in a network. I mean, maybe you do, and that's incredible, but if you don't, there's still these paths that I think a lot of people don't really know about.
No, love it. Thank you. And Bisola's just added in a link there if there's anyone who's interested in learning more or to book a meeting with their team. Yeah,
we can help you ideate on what kind of work you can take off your to-do list, like what's a good fit. So one of the cool ways we are using AI is actually on this site. You can go in and you can put some keywords in and ideate, and it'll help you ideate a project. And then you can connect with our team to help you really scope it, so that it's as meaningful as possible for your business, and really get those things done that you need to get done.
Brilliant. And yeah, Ola just said that they have used Riipen and it was really helpful to them. So Great to have
Amazing. Oh, that's so cool. Thanks. I love that. That's what we're here for. I like hearing these stories. Like that's one of the reasons I stay in this kind of business is hearing the stories from entrepreneurs and hearing stories from students is really like that's the whole point.
Fantastic. So we have a few more minutes left. We haven't, there's one or two questions that we haven't touched on that I had curated. But I also know there's a few questions in the chat that are still yet to be answered. Would anyone like to come off mute and ask their question before we go into networking rooms?
I will.
Absolutely, Patty, go ahead.
I just asked, Bianca, you had mentioned that when you started, you had no money, no experience, and that you bootstrapped it. I'm curious, knowing that you got a job and you had your side hustle, did you approach anyone for funding or capital in any way? How did you bootstrap it?
Yeah, I mean, I bootstrapped it from, the business model is people book a tour and then I pay for the tour services. So you can't bootstrap every business model. My business model, I could because I sold spots and then I paid my vendors. And then I sold spots and then I paid vendors and I sold spots and I paid vendors. This is why, I'm always talking about cash flow and I'm always because I had to be that lean and I had to be that small. So, yeah, I mean, I believe, again, I said at the top of the call, if I was to do it all again, I would open an operating line of credit because that makes life easier when you hit a bump in the road. But I actually think that because I've operated the company with this very bootstrap mentality, I'm still in the game. And so even if now we have more capital to play with, I still have a very scrappy and very stretch a dollar around the block mentality when it comes to the operations of the company. We serve a luxury product. We have a very beautiful product with a lot of time and attention spent there. But time and attention is sweat equity, just like renovating a house. It's like, what can I do here with some paint? And that is a lot of sweat equity. So just this founder mentality of I might not have a lot of resources, but I'm incredibly resourceful. That's the mentality. And starting small and being okay with that. And there's really there's no race. A lot of people are like, well, what's the magic? It's not a race. It's a year over year personal development mission. And year over year, you sharpen your axe, you get more clients, and it's easier. My business is easier to run now, even if I have more responsibility, more team, more clients, more everything. It's easier to run now because, I'm going to jump on a flight to Sicily in a couple hours. And I don't worry because I know my team's got it and I don't have to be in office for everything to operate. And that's an easier feeling than back in the early days when everything was on me.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
I will also, Kristal, I know that you leverage financing. So maybe you can speak to your experience with that.
Yeah, for sure. So in our initial purchase, of course, you have to do a down payment. You have to come up with some cash to put down on the business. And I think for us, it was 15% at the time. So that was all through personal funding. So I took money out off of a personal line of credit that I had, as did my partners, to put into the pot. And because we were doing it wasn't, we were buying a business, we were buying the assets of a business, and we set up our own company in order to do so. We have separate companies, numbered companies for each of the cafes, but we operate as the brand name. We were able to take advantage of the Canadian small business financing program. So that's something that's offered through the majority of the big banks, and where the government will guarantee up to 80% of the purchase price. And so we had to shop around a lot at first, and we had to have a lot of ducks in a row. But it's eligible for small businesses or startups who are already operating, and you have to have like a certain amount of revenue, but there's a cap. Like you can't be, making $500. You have to be able to prove that you're already operating at a certain level to qualify. And it's supposed to be for like leasehold improvements or additional funding that you might need if you have to replace equipment or renovations that you want to do, that sort of deal. So we used it towards the asset sale of what we were acquiring within the confines of each of the locations that we were doing. So we were 15% down through Desjardins, who was a great partner, but we had to shop around. Initially, we went and we applied for the same program through RBC, and they were asking for 35% down. So it's also important, if you're going to sort of leverage that program, to sort of shop around the banks and kind of see who can get you the best deal. But you need to have, your business plan intact. You have to be able to show financial projections. I think we had to project out 2 years. Again, we had operational data because the location was already operating that we could use and sort of replicate, which made that a little bit easier. But still, you kind of are signing your life away and putting yourself personally on the line for a lot of these things. But we wouldn't have unless I had a whole bunch of money sitting in the bank, which I did not. We wouldn't have been able to have done this without being able to access the financing program through the government.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Kristal, for that. I hope that gives some clarity for anyone who's wondering about, what path they can do if they want to think about financing. So we are just over time for the panel discussion. I know there are a couple people with their hands up for questions. So we're going to go into our networking breakout room. So you do have an opportunity to still ask questions, whether there's a speaker in the room with you or to the other attendees in the room with